At 10 a.m. sharp, 30 adults in matching teal wristbands marched through my side gate carrying pool noodles like medieval weapons. A woman with a megaphone announced with a triumphant tone, "Welcome to the Copper Finch Community Pool." Then everyone stared into the deep end and collectively realized community pool was a sun-baked, echoing crater with an inflatable swan stranded on the dry drain like a shipwrecked diplomat. The silence that followed was more deafening than the megaphone had been. I'm Marcus Vale, quiet, divorced, allergic to neighborhood politics, owner of a 1960s ranch house with a kind of turquoise pool. Real estate agents whisper about in reverent tones. My parcel predates the HOA boundary line by a full decade. My deed is clean and private, filed when this area was nothing but orange groves. Next door sprawls Copper Finch Estates, ruled by Trina Mole, an HOA president with a bob haircut so rigid it looked like it filed legal motions in its free time. Trina decided, after a single glance at my sparkling water during her morning power walk, that amenity parity demanded my pool be adopted as a shared community feature. I laughed when she first mentioned it at my door. Trina did not laugh. She never laughed. The campaign started with official-looking stationery notice of shared pool hours typed in jubilant Arial font, taped to my mailbox with surgical precision. Then came a laminated sign zip-tied to my fence with industrial strength. HOA pool guests must wear wristbands. She slid a color-coded schedule under my door at 6 o'clock in the morning. Water aerobics at 6 a.m. lap swim at 7 o'clock. Something called board-only sun deck. Time from 2 to 3 p.m. I had to read that one twice to believe it. Next came trespassing with theatrical flair. My gate's padlock was replaced overnight with a glossy blue one bearing the HOA logo embossed in gold. A lifeguard chair appeared by the deep end like a white throne ready for aquatic coups. She installed a commercial-grade pool umbrella with Copper Finch Communities stenciled around the edge in letters visible from space. A stack of branded towels materialized on my deck chairs, each one monogrammed with CFCP for Copper Finch Community Pool. She actually had the nerve to drill a key lockbox into my fence post, the kind realtors use with a combination posted in the HOA newsletter as your access code to summer fun. Trina posted on Nextdoor that the community pool temperature will be brought up to regulation standards and actually trailed a garden hose over my fence to top off my water levels. This during mandatory drought restrictions with 1,000 fines attached. The hose ran 24/7 for 3 days before I caught it. My water bill later showing an extra $400 in usage. She rang my bell at 7 a.m. with a clipboard to present me with a bill for chemical deficits incurred while serving the broader community, itemizing everything from pH balancer to something called enzymatic clarifier that sounded more medical than recreational. The rumors she spread were a reverse PR masterpiece of suburban warfare. She told anyone who would listen that I'd been skimming HODUs despite me not being a member. She claimed my pool had biohazard readings when it literally just had a family of ducks that visited. At the grocery store, I overheard her telling a group of moms that I was a selfish bachelor hoarding community resources and that she'd see me counting money while children looked longingly through the fence. She actually staged a photo shoot of sad kids pressing their faces against my fence which he posted with a caption. "This is what greed looks like." She convinced half the neighborhood I was withholding a common asset from families with children. The woman sold $15 season passes at the clubhouse with my address printed right on them. She set up a payment system through Venmo with a handle at Copper Finch Pool. Over 300 passes sold in 1 week. I saw the flyer myself. Summerplash at Community Pool. Nice house on Finch Circle with the blue shutters. My house. She had the audacity to compliment my shutters while stealing my pool. The flyer included professional photos of my backyard taken with a drone, complete with arrows pointing to changing areas, which was my shed, and refreshment zone, which was my outdoor kitchen. Trina escalated from delusional to illegal in a single Tuesday afternoon. She filed a block access complaint with the police, claiming I'd barricaded a shared community facility. She submitted my home address to the HOAS insurance company as a common area requiring coverage. She even posted a victory video on the neighborhood Facebook page showing her tapping a city fire hydrant with a wrench to ensure adequate water for our community asset. Hydrant, wrench, camera rolling. During a drought with strict water restrictions, cops came by my house, glanced over my deed and original plat map from 1962, and left looking utterly bored. But the hydrant situation, the city water authority didn't look bored at all when they saw that video. Their investigators' eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Meanwhile, I discovered her blue HOA lock on my gate was keyed exactly the same as the pool house lock in the HOA cabana, meaning she'd literally mass issued keys to my private backyard to anyone with HOA access. I stopped playing defensive and started playing offense with documentation. I compiled a tidy packet thicker than a phone book. My original title, Land Survey, photos of her blue lock, screenshots of the hydrant video with timestamps, the wristband flyer, and her season pass Facebook post with 200 comments from excited residents. I emailed this treasure trove to the Water Authority, the City Code Enforcement Office, and most importantly, the HOA's professional property management company that actually held the insurance policies. A code enforcement officer visited that Thursday and politely peeled the HOA pool sign off my fence, like removing a Band-Aid from a very bad idea. A water utility investigator called me back using phrases that made my day. Unauthorized hydrant access, criminal tampering, backflow contamination risk, and my personal favorite, administrative hearing with mandatory appearance. The HOAS insurance representative left Trina a voicemail. I could hear through the fence because she played it on speaker in her backyard. "Ma'am, we absolutely do not and cannot insure random strangers' private backyards." The HOA board, suddenly aware of what the insurance company called catastrophic liability exposure, scheduled an emergency meeting for the morning of the big summer splash event. That night, I hired a licensed plumber with all the proper permits to drain my pool via my sewer cleanout. Completely legal, properly documented, with receipts for everything. The plumber, a guy named Rick, who'd seen it all in 30 years, just shook his head and said this was a first even for him. We worked until 3 a.m. using professional-grade pumps that hummed like jet engines. I also hired a lawyer friend to sit in a lawn chair with a video camera, documenting everything in case Trina tried to claim vandalism. By sunrise, my pool was a gleaming concrete amphitheater with a beach umbrella planted at the bottom and a chalk sign written on the coping in huge letters. Private property, not an amenity. Deed maps available at the deep end with an arrow pointing down. I also left a single rubber ducky floating in the puddle at the drain, wearing a tiny sign that said, "Private Duck." At 10 a.m., the HOA parade returned in full force. Industrial-sized bottles of sunscreen, wheeled coolers, inflatable beach balls, a Bluetooth speaker blaring hot, hot, hot on repeat. 3 families had actually rented a party bus that pulled up with "Pool Day" written on the windows in washable paint. Kids poured out in swimming goggles and fins already soaking wet from water balloons they'd been throwing on the ride over. One dad was carrying a barbecue grill on his shoulder. A mom had a birthday cake that said "Timmy's Pool Party" with my address in frosting underneath. Trina, wearing a visor with "President" embroidered in gold thread and a whistle around her neck like a cruise director, raised her megaphone with a victorious smile, then saw the empty pool. The megaphone feedback screeched as her hand trembled. 30 teal wristbands froze mid. Children's started crying. One kid shouted, "Mom, someone stole all the water." The dad with the grill just stood there, meat still sizzling, looking into the concrete void. The birthday cake mom dropped her platter and it exploded in a mess of blue frosting that spelled out my address in cursive across the sidewalk. The inflatable swan I'd left at the bottom seemed to sigh in the morning heat. Right on cue, like a perfectly choreographed scene, the Water Authority van rolled up, followed by code enforcement in their official vehicle and a very tired-looking HOA property manager in a sedan. The water investigator played Trina's hydrant video on an iPad, holding it up like a courtroom exhibit for everyone to see. Fines were discussed in loud official voices. The phrase "up to $10,000" echoed off the empty pool walls. Refunds were demanded even more loudly by angry parents. The property manager announced through Trina's own megaphone that the season passes were completely unauthorized and the board would address the fraudulent fundraiser discrepancy immediately. Trina tried to salvage some dignity, pivoting to safety concerns with a shaking voice. "Well, at least now it's not safe for children to swim in this hazard." Then she attempted a theatrical exit, misjudged the pool coping while gesturing dramatically, and stepped neatly into the shallow end, a 6-foot drop onto concrete. The megaphone hit first with a plastic crack, let out one final feedback scream that made everyone cover their ears, and died in a shower of sparks. The aftermath came in official legal colors. Trina received citations for criminal trespass, illegal hydrant access with a $5,000 fine, unauthorized signage, and fraud for selling passes to property she didn't own. The HOA had to issue $17,000 in refunds and faced a special assessment to cover the city fines, plus what they called per remediation. The insurance company opened a fraud investigation file and recommended mandatory board training. At the emergency meeting that afternoon, Trina was voted out unanimously, 7-0. And when the results were announced, her face turned the exact shade of my pool's original turquoise paint. She stood up, knocked over her chair, and shouted that we'd all regret this, before storming out into the parking lot where a process server was waiting with a civil lawsuit from 30 angry families seeking damages for fraud, emotional distress, and recreational disappointment. The dollar amount made her knees buckle. $75,000. She dropped her designer handbag, spilling HOA rubber stamps across the asphalt, and whispered, "This can't be happening." As the server confirmed her identity and handed her the papers,